is Donny Gillson. I am the host of this show. I will be here on KBeach every Thursday night. I start at 9 o'clock, and I'll be going all the way till 11. We have a lot of great people coming up in the following weeks. What you want to do is you want to go to kbeach.org. Look under 32 Degrees of Insanity under the talk shows. You'll learn a little bit more about who I am and what I've been doing over the last few years as far as radio. I've been on what they call the Truth Frequency Radio Network at www.truthfrequencyradio.com. I am now here on kbeach.org thanks to the wonderful family that we have here at KBeach. And we ask our student body to really support us. And we really try to speak out on truth. And we have a lot of great programming on this. This is just a conspiracy show here that I do here late at night. But we've got a lot of great programming here, and we really would love you to listen to it. And we're right here on 88.1 FM HD3. You can listen to us anytime. You can download the app. And I was promoting the apps out there all the time. Even my listeners from Truth Frequency Radio, I got several letters from all of my friends all around the world saying, hey, we downloaded the app. Yeah, this is great. But, tonight's show is very important. And it's not about me. It's not about Alfred Webre. It's about talking about the truth and exploring the truth. And right before we went into break, we started talking a little bit about George Walker Bush Jr., or George Walker Bush. We talked about Tony Blair. We talked about Dick Cheney. And the possibility, or not the possibility, actually, they have been found guilty in a tribunal of war crimes against humanity. And one of the sitting judges on that tribunal is with me tonight. And his name is Alfred Lambremont Webre. And I want to welcome him back to my show. Alfred, welcome back. Alfred? I think he's on mute again. Alfred, you there? Hello, Alfred. One thing about Alfred, sometimes he's using his remote, or he might be doing... Alfred, you there? Hello? Hello, Alfred. I can't hear you. All right, I just texted him, see if he'll come on. So I'm just going to kind of go off on my own little thing here while we're waiting for Alfred to come back.
Wow.
Ah, there we are.
Skype makes it very difficult to unmute. You've got to go through a pile of windows.
You got to go through a pile of...
Finally, you come down to this little microphone thing. Okay, well, my dog ate the homework, and that's why I was late. Oh. That's all I got to say.
Well, it was the Ebola virus, Alfred.
Yeah.
All right. But anyways, you're back. Here we are, back on 32 Degrees of Insanity with Donny Gillson here on KBeach Radio. Alfred, it's so good to have you back on the show. But right as we were getting into the break here, and we'll be back on another break at the top of the hour, but we were talking about this tribunal you were on and how you found George Walker Bush, Dick Cheney, Donald Rumsfeld, and Tony Blair. And was Condoleezza Rice found guilty on that too, or no?
She was not one of the defendants.
She was not. Okay.
No.
All right.
For whatever reason, the prosecutors did not bring her in. Now, but now what we are is that I'm really here as a sitting judge of the 9/11 War Crimes Tribunal, which is a citizens tribunal of conscience, and I'm updating you as to the status of proceedings there, because we are ready to bring that tribunal back into session. And tonight we're issuing a public call for the witnesses of the tribunal to come back into session, and for those witnesses worldwide who wish to be heard to come back into session. And what I had mentioned right before the break was that where we stand is that we are in contact with Judge Fernando Imposimato, Chief Judge of the Italian Supreme Court, Emeritus, who is ready to bring this matter to the International Criminal Court. We figured out how to get jurisdiction of 9/11 in the International Criminal Court, and that is because conspirators whose of countries whose nations have signed the Rome Treaty. See, both Israel and the United States have backed out of the Rome Treaty or have not signed it, so those nationals are not subject to the Major War Crimes Court. However, we found nationals who are citizens of countries who have signed it, who are co-conspirators in 9/11, and we'll get to them in a moment.
Okay.
Now, so where we were is that I personally, as a judge of the Kuala Lumpur War Crimes Tribunal, had brought the 9/11 issue to the court, and they had held a week of hearings before the commission there on 9/11. And the last time I was there, this was on several of the pre-sessions of the Kuala Lumpur Commission versus the State of Israel. Israel was found guilty of war crimes and genocide for its invasion of Palestine in 1948, where it displaced 1.5 million Palestinians illegally. And I asked the director of the commission whether they intended to go forward with 9/11, and he told me no, they did not intend to go forward. So I saw at that point that our court, the 9/11 War Crimes Tribunal, was the one tribunal that was prepared to go forward at the world level and was preparing to bring this issue to the International Criminal Court, which is where war criminals are tried and are brought and are sentenced to life imprisonment to 25 years. Many of them die on the way to trial mysteriously. But at least we try to get them there. So, and at the time that we were forced to adjourn, we in the court had introduced 2 affidavits. One affidavit was the affidavit of independent scientist Lorraine Murray. I believe you're familiar with her, are you not?
I think so. You can try my memory on that. Yeah.
And the other was the affidavit of U.S. chrononaut and U.S. Navy Lieutenant Commander Andrew D. Bashago.
Yes.
Yes, and I'd like to get into detail on these 2 affidavits because this will begin to give members of our listening audience some first indication of where we were going with regard to guilt. You see, most of the research that has been going on in the research community and in the newspapers has been at a relatively low level of, how did this happen, right? Where, was it directed energy weapons?
Right.
Was this a demolition? Mm-hmm. What happened to the steel? What happened to Building 7? But when you get to a criminal investigation, you want to know who did it.
Right.
Because you have to charge somebody. So we came at it from a totally different perspective. It's a criminal investigation. You want to know who's behind it. So there were 2 affidavits from witnesses. These are sworn statements from very accomplished professionals. The first, Lorraine Murray, she's M.A., Ph.D., A.B.D. Her affidavit is dated October 19, 2012. It's available for public inspection. Named the following individuals, including the State of Israel, as the major principals behind the false flag operation of September 11, 2001. And this is starting from the top down. Number 1, Elizabeth Windsor, Queen Elizabeth. Now, this is very important. She's a UK citizen. Why is that important? Because the UK has signed the Treaty of Rome, which is the Treaty of Rome establishing the International Criminal Court, which means that all UK citizens are subject to the jurisdiction of the International Criminal Court. And it means that a UK citizen that is involved in a war crime can be hauled before the court. Number 2, Prince Philip, Duke of Edinburgh, UK citizen. Number 3, Nathaniel Charles Jacob Rothschild, 4th Baron Rothschild, OM, GBE, FBA, UK citizen. He's the famous head of the Rothschild clan. Number 4, Edgar Miles Bronfman, Canadian citizen. Again, Canada subject to the jurisdiction of the ICC. Now, number 5, Henry Alfred Kissinger. You know, he's a shame to the name Alfred, in my opinion.
I was just talking about him just the other day about how he called our own military cattle.
Yeah, I mean he's like he is a disgrace to everything that is human, in my judgment. But he is a U.S. citizen. Number 6, Donald H. Rumsfeld, who was the sitting Secretary of Defense. We'll get into that later in the memo to the U.S. Congress that we presented to, in 2006, the sitting chairman of the House Judiciary Committee. There's a whole story to that. Number 7, Richard B. Cheney, the sitting vice president of the United States, who was a class ahead of me at Yale. He was a sophomore. When I was a freshman, he flunked out his sophomore year. Number 8, George W. Bush, who was a few years behind me at Yale, a U.S. citizen, was president at the time. He committed high treason. We'll get into that. Number 9, David Rockefeller, who is the main Rothschild contractor in North America. Number 10, the state of Israel. That was really the main state actor in 9/11 and took acts that should constitute war against the United States and was never prosecuted because of the number of Israeli dual citizens who were at the same time inside the U.S. Department of Defense and other government agencies who acted on behalf of the state of Israel while it committed a high act of war against the United States. So you can say that the state of Israel and high officials, a conspiracy involving high officials in the world Illuminati, in the world Paris secret government, and high officials of the U.S. government conspired to attack the United States for purposes of installing a domestic police state domestically worldwide, the New World Order, and launching a global war on terror that would benefit them economically. So that's the essence of the affidavit of our witness, Loren Murray. Now, a second affidavit was submitted, and that is the affidavit of Lieutenant Commander, U.S. Navy and U.S. chrononaut.
Andrew.
Yes.
Andrew Bazzato, right?
Yes, Lieutenant Commander Andrew D. Bashago, and I'm just paging through the pages of the affidavit here to paragraphs 75, 76, 77. Now, many of your listeners might not be familiar with the subject matter of this affidavit or even what a chrononaut means. But I think you are familiar, Don, and you may act as an intermediary here, but a chrononaut means a time traveler. Right. And yes, the U.S. government has had secret time travel for over 40 years. And this is quantum access. That is, you access the quantum, which is the time